Hi, Renee.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am well. I think there it is. Is it closed? It is closed. There we go.
There you are.
Sorry, how
Hello.
are you?
Good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. How's it
Cool.
going?
It's going. Yeah. So we have 8 people confirmed, which
Great.
is lovely.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I have a slideshow, so I don't know. Or you tell me how you usually run it, and then I can just jump in from there.
I just made you co-host, so you should be
Okay.
able to share your screen.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. I'll introduce the program. I'll introduce you, and then you can just kind of take it away.
Okay.
I can take care of like muting and unmuting people for you.
Okay, sure.
Cool.
And then if there any like things that come up in the chat, I'll try to pay attention to it, but sometimes I miss it if I'm sharing my screen. So
Sure.
that's
I'm happy to also take care of that. I'll let you know if things pop up.
okay, great. And then I am what I've planned for is like maybe about 30 minutes of presentation with question and stuff in there, and then it can be like an open discussion, and then I have just kind of a closing slide activity for everyone.
Okay, cool. Sounds great.
Whoop, whoop. Yay.
Yay. Yeah, I play some weight room music.
Sounds
If
good.
that's cool. Great.
That's fine. Actually, there is a song that I wanted to use at the end called Breathe by Sweet Honey on the Rock. Is it possible for you to do the sound for that?
Sure, let me find it.
And I have a slide for it. Let me just check my slide, make sure my slide does what my slide's supposed to do.
Let me also make sure this is the actual song you wanted.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's working. Woohoo! Yeah, so it's this slide.
Hold on. This one?
That's it.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Yep. If you can share your sound and I'll share my screen, we will have a good time. Because I've been doing presentations all week, and so that has been my fumble, trying to like share my sound and share the presentation. And I had gone back to just finally using my phone again instead of trying to do it the other way.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
happy to do that.
thank you.
Cool. So I'll have that pulled up for whenever you're ready. And while we hang out and wait for people to show up. What was I playing?
I got it. bicha tomenu yadirem endeta leshiling anche fikir firem anchi otat yelechim biluni mach neberkunyi anchi otat yelechim biluni mach neberkunyi akale demo komim tekemitem balehubet botam አስታውስሻለሁ ጧትም ሆነ ማታም በጣም አስቸገረኝ የናፍቆት ትዝታ አለሁልህ በይኝ ፍቅሬን ያለኝታ አንቺ ወጣት የለሽም ቢሉኝ ማች ነበርኩኝ አንቺ ወጣት የለሽም ቢሉኝ ማች ነበርኩኝ ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለወሬ የለውም ፍሬ ሲባል አልሰማህም ወሬ እከሌ አንተን ያመሃል ቢሉህስ ምን ይጎዳሃል አንተ ሳትሰማ ሳታውቀው ቢያሙህም ንቀህ ለፈው አፈኛ ባፉ ይጠፋል ታገሰው ቀን ይጥለዋል ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ ንጽሕናዬን አውቃለሁ ቢያሞኝስ ምን እጎዳለሁ ብለህ አስበህ እለፈው እስቲ ቻል አድርገህ ታገሰው ለወሬ የለውም ፍሬ ሲባል አልሰማህም ወሬ እከሌ አንተን ያመሃል ቢሉህስ ምን ይጎዳሃል ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ ያም ሲያማ ወገኔ ለኔ ብለህ ስማ
It's 4 o'clock. I say let's give people 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. Great. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Rakia Seaborn. I'm the Senior Manager of Engagement here at Cumbe. I'd like to welcome you all to Cumbe Café. Cumbe Café is a gathering of creative, artistic, and culturally forward-thinking minds seeking a deeper understanding and appreciation of African and diaspora culture. It's a program we designed to supplement all the programming that's happening in our studios. This month, we've been covering the different ways cultures across the African diaspora connect and relate to the ancestors. And we're really excited today to bring to you Renee K. Smith with her program, The Act of Remembering, paying homage to our ancestors in thought and action. So I'm gonna pass it on over to Renee, and she's gonna do her thing. Couple housekeeping things. If you could mute yourself while you're not speaking, that would be amazing. And if any questions or concerns come up as we're going through this, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll get that taken care of for you. All right, I'm going to stop talking now. Renee, do your thing.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us for this conversation. So my name is Renee Ifagbaye Eshubola Ayelagbeg Besina Kimberly Smith. I am the daughter of Maureen Smith, of Stephen Tyson, and of Richard Smith. I am the granddaughter of Violet Chevalier, Jacob Chevalier, of Brodell Anderson, and of Cecil Smith. I am the great granddaughter of Hilda Benoit and Eddie Benoit. I greet you in that manner. It's interesting to be speaking about ancestors, but every single time that I introduce myself in public forums, I do so in that way because it is not just me that you see, it is all of those who've come before me and all that I am doing in this present moment, all of those who will come after me. And so I'm always humbled by opportunities to share and to work in community. And so I wanted to make sure that I share that part of myself. I want to also say that this is a conversation. So I will present a couple of concepts that I have learned and I've experienced and I've been working with over time, that I've had the chance to sit at the feet of elders and through my own spiritual practice have come to continue to understand. But throughout the conversation and throughout things that I'm sharing, if there is something that brings a question you'd like to talk more about, that would be great. I was sharing with Rakia, I planned a couple of slides and some things to kind of talk through and some activities for us to do for this time period. But also, again, if questions come up, we also will have time at the end to just kind of have a roundtable discussion as well. So if it is okay with all of you, I would like to start. And if you could just put a reaction of thumbs up in your screen, and we will get started. Thank you. Hi, Kendra. Thank you, Muha. And apologize if I say your name incorrectly. I promise I will have a moment when I do that. I'm going to just quickly share my presentation. Something. Oh, did it stop sharing again? All right. So this is where we are today. Again, thank you, Cumbe, for Cumbe and Cumbe Café for continuing to find these amazing opportunities for community to come together. And so today I've been asked to talk a little bit about ancestors. And one of the things that I like to talk about when we talk about ancestors is this, that it's actually an act of remembering, right? That in many communities and many indigenous cultures, what we have come here to do as in this human form is really about the remembering of what we've already promised that we would do. That our blood and our DNA carries the knowledge of centuries in it, and that many times in order for us to be in alignment with the work that we've said that we would do, we just need to remember. And remembering is, you know, there are many reasons why we don't remember. It can be trauma, it can be just our daily hustle and bustle. It can be something that I talk about in my wellness practice, where this act of just simply breathing, this act of simply connecting with nature, the act of simply allowing for space and time and quiet to exist in our lives, because we live in a world that requires us to be in what we call yang energy all the time, that we're always moving, we're always doing. And so I love, there is a sister out from Oakland who does this piece called the Nap Ministry, right? It says that rest is a part of resistance, right? That we deciding to take time off and to slow down is actually a part of us being able to resist, because the idea that we always have to be going is not really true, right? It's an act of supremacy that we've enacted in our own lives. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to remember and what it means to pay homage, and that, that remembering what we came to do is a part of our ancestral birthright, is a part of us connecting to our ancestors, and that sometimes it can be something as simple as saying a word, saying a prayer, cooking something that will remind us and put us into a place that allows for us to be able to pay homage. So I'm gonna keep going here. So the first thing I wanted to do was to define the idea of ancestor, right? So an ancestor, also known as a forefather, forelder, or forebear, is a parent or the parent of, or the antecedent, right? This idea that this is a person that someone has descended from. In law, the person from whom an estate has been inherited. This part about the inheritance and the estate we'll talk about a little bit later. But in this particular picture, we also see different ways in which indigenous communities pay homage, right? So you have a Bovida, or an ancestor altar, which exists throughout the African diaspora. You have the Egungun mask, known specifically in the Sheshe tradition, but you also see it in Benin and you see it in Guinea, where there are actual masks and masqueraders that hold that lineage and hold that understanding of the family's lineage through Egungun masks. And then on the bottom, you see the reliquary mask, which is known in Gabon and part of the Congo as a way of paying homage to those who've passed on. One of the things I always like to talk about in workshops like these, and just kind of understanding the African diaspora, that many times people think that everything was just done without any type of thought process. But one of the things that we know, one, as dancers, but two, as practitioners and keepers of the culture, is that everything has form and function, right? So a mask just by itself may not mean anything if you don't know the information that unlocks the information that exists within the mask, right? So that every carving and every symbol that you see on the mask actually means something. The same thing when you think about hieroglyphics, right? So hieroglyphics existed on the wall. Many people may not know what they mean unless you can read hieroglyphics. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have a meaning. It just means that you don't know what it means. And so I think that that's really, really important, because within many indigenous cultures, that also exists in music, it exists in movement, it exists in food, it exists in prayers, it exists in songs, it exists in clothing, it exists in the beadwork, it exists in the way that you put your house together, it exists in how people come and greet you. All of those things are a part of the ancestral memory that exists. And by us continuing to do them and practice them today, we in just doing that, we are paying homage, right? We are acknowledging that what has come before us has value in our present day. And so that is really, really important when we start talking about how we pay homage, that the thought process that we engage in every day, our rituals that we engage in every day, are a part of us being a part of that practice. So I wanted to share a little bit with you a concept and a process that I learned from Dr. Fukia Benseki. He was a Key Congo scholar, both in education as well as in spiritual aspects. And I had the opportunity to learn at his feet in my younger years. And so part of the work that we did was looking at African worldview, but really looking at the Bantu cosmology. This particular cosmogram, it's called the Yowa or the Dengengi. And it's really important in a couple of reasons. One, because we understand in Western culture that time is linear, we have the understanding that something begins and something ends. Where in most indigenous cultures, time is considered cyclical, right? Or it goes in a spiral, which means that time has no beginning or ending. It just continues to go through a cycle. And we are marking time by very specific things. You may mark time by the seasons. You may mark time by your moon cycle. You may mark time by, how long it takes your child's hair to grow to their shoulder. There are lots of, you may mark time by your favorite flowers when they come, when they blossom. All of those ways are ways in which we're marking time because we understand that everything is happening in cycle. So within the Bantu cosmology, one, by first us understanding that time is not linear, but it is cyclical. It allows us to put a different understanding on the power that we have as individuals to create healing and to create connection and to create our understanding within the space and time that we have. So one of the amazing things that we talked about with Dr. Fukiao is this understanding of self-healing, right? And that self-healing exists with each individual person because of who we are and the DNA and the blood that runs through our veins. And that certain aspects of our life and certain experiences of our life changes our ability to tap into that self-healing. But when we have an understanding that time is no longer linear, but that we in our present moment are essentially healing our past and changing our future, all by being very physically present in this moment, we have then started to allow for this energy of self-healing that exists within us to really begin to rejuvenate ourselves. So I take this understanding of time really, really clearly, because one of the things that will prevent us from being able to pay homage and to be present to what our ancestors are saying to us on a daily basis is us not being present in the moment, right? That we are either stuck in understandings and experiences of the past, which create regret, and or we are worried about the future. And so we are not allowing ourselves to be present and still so that we can hear, we can experience, we can see the signs, because our culture and African culture is very much about iconography. Again, the mask isn't going to mean anything to you unless you understand who carves it, why they carve it, what the symbols mean. And so these symbols are given to us all the time. Many people talk about it when they see certain numbers come up, right? You see 222 and 333 and 111 and 444. All of those are, yes, they are signs from the universe. It can be that, you smell a certain smell all of a sudden, and it reminds you of your grandmother. You see certain things at a certain time and it reminds you of your best friend. All of those things are a part of our connection to our ancestors and this act of remembering. So within the Bantu cosmology, they see every person as a living sun. Why? Because the sun rises and it sets. But when the sun rises and it sets, even though we don't see how it comes back up to rise, we know that the motion that it's going through is one that is cyclical. It's one that is going in a circle. And so within the Bantu cosmology, we see someone's life understanding, but not only their life development, overall cycle of life, but also any kind of creative cycles when we are creating businesses, when we are going through trials and tribulations or our learnings and our process of unlearning. All of that is a part of this cosmology. So just a quick kind of understanding of the cosmology so that we are all on the same page. We start with the yellow, which is Masoni, which is the yellow sun. This is the concept of conception. It is the concept of what we call the go order. This is when you've become a twinkle in your mother's eye, or before the twinkle in your mother's eye, and then you're getting ready to be a part of this world. After Masoni comes to Kala. So Kala is interesting because Kala is the place of all births. It's the place that takes the most energy for us to come into existence. If you think about the amount of energy it takes for a mother to bring a child into the world, if you think about the amount of energy it takes to change coal into diamond, if you think about the amount of energy it takes for a seed or seedling to go against gravity in order for it to sprout, all of those things are Kala. All of those things are this idea of birth. After Kala, you go through your toddler years and your teenage years, and you get to a place where you know that you're in a place that's great for you, that you've learned, and you're showing your leadership, your maturity, and your creativity. It's coming without delay. This is also seen in the natural world when you look at trees and plants when you get into the summertime, right? And we're at that harvest season, and flowers are blooming and everything smells well and all is going well. So that is Tekula, that red sun, that place of maturity. And once you have matured and you've done all of your work and you've contributed to community, you then will get ready for Luvumba. Luvumba is considered the white or the gray sun. It's the time when you get what they say, your white here. It's the time that you are getting ready for your vacation. You have done your work on this plane, and it's time for the energy of you and who you are to take a rest. And so Luvumba is that time period where elders change, and they understand that death is coming, and death not as the end, but death as this place of transformation and this place of rest. Again, this is also a way of reminding this particular cosmology, and this icon is a way of reminding us that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It really just transforms, right? That we are constantly in this cycle of beginning and ending, beginning and ending, beginning and ending, in order for us to continue the work that we've come here to do. So I wanted to share this cosmology with you because this is one of the ways in which, in my practice as a wellness person, working in flower essences and plants, but also working in community, this is one of the ways in which I really get people to think about their lives and their cycles and the way in which they are interacting with the world, not just the physical world, but also the spiritual world. Are we making the time for both of these things to be able to occur? Any questions or thoughts before I move forward?
Well, I may have missed it. What was Tekula?
Tekula is the red sun. So it is the place of maturity, of leadership, and creativity.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna keep going. Thank you. So this act of remembering, right? This idea of the Sankofa moment, right? The Sankofa bird in Akan culture, it's from the Twi language from Ghana, and it means go back and fetch it. People take that in lots of different ways, but it really means that we have the ability to see our future by going back into our past and learning from those things. And in this conversation, our past includes our ancestors, right? It includes all of the things that they have learned, all of the things that they've passed on to us in our blood, all the things they've passed on to us through our spiritual inheritance that allows for us to be able to remember. And so when Rakia first asked me about this, doing this conversation, I was having this process that was happening with me around remembering, right? Because for myself, I am probably in my 4th or 5th iteration of my career. I'm currently a flower essence practitioner and a Reiki practitioner and an alchemist and an herbalist. And all of that work that's coming to me now is not the work that I probably would have told you I would have been doing 3 years ago. The other thing that I've recognized is most of this work is coming to me not because I studied it first. I'm actually studying it after I started doing it. It came to me because I had a moment where I started remembering, and where my ancestors were saying, this is the work we need you to do right now. And if I have a moment to, as my God sister likes to say, lay down your ego and pick up your mission, I had to really sit with that, because it wasn't what I had planned to do. But I do understand that my work in community has been very, very important. And this is the next iteration of how that work gets achieved. And so sometimes it requires us to kind of sit and understand that some of the work that we do is the work that we've chosen. Some of the work that we do is the ancestral work that we've been asked to do and that we promised we would do. And throughout our lives and our existence, times come where we start remembering them, and that we are walking with that understanding with us all the time. And so these acts of remembrance, this Sankofa moment, the Sankofa moment to reflect, also reminds me of, the way in which I cook, right? So I cook sometimes from a recipe, but many times not from a recipe. That I'm in the kitchen sometimes just being told what needs to go in there. That like the other day, I actually made pepper sauce, which I hardly ever make. That was always my mother and my grandmother's and also my grandfather's thing to do. And I got in the kitchen and just started mixing. And I kid you not, finished making it. It was like, oh, wow, I think I just made the pepper sauce like my grandma made. That all of these small, what we consider small acts that we do every day are really these acts of remembering, really these ways in which we are honoring our ancestors. By bringing the memories and the knowledge that exist in our bloodline into reality, into a place that matters, into this physical space that allows for us to now have that as an icon and a symbol that represents who we are, our bloodline, our lineage, and why we're here. So this idea of paying homage, right? Paying respect, it translates to special honor or respect that's shown publicly. I want to read to you this quote that comes from Elder Malidome Some's book, The Healing Wisdom of Africa. And so it says, ritual, communally designed, helps the individual remember his or her purpose, and such remembering brings healing both to the individual and the community. The community exists in part to safeguard the purpose of each person within it and awaken the memory of that purpose by recognizing the unique gifts each individual brings to the world. Healing comes when the individual remembers his or her identity, the purpose chosen in the world of ancestral wisdom, and reconnects with the world of spirit. This act of remembering, right? The process of remembering, this process of paying homage exists because of these three components: ritual, community, and healing, right? That ritual is an act, an actual thing that we do, sometimes every day, sometimes every month. Sometimes there's a process for us doing it, whatever that is. Some of them are spiritual rituals. Some of them are just our daily ritual, right? Daily rituals can include lots of different things. It can also include waking up. For me, sometimes it's just the act of waking up, saying my prayers, seeing my daughter and telling her I love her. That is part of my ritual, right? It is an opportunity for me to remind her that she is loved in the world. Those rituals, drinking tea, doing yoga, taking care of yourself, interacting with others in your home, paying homage to your shrines, greeting your shrines if you have, or your altars if you have. All of those rituals are designed and in part to allow for us to remember our purpose, to remember that we, in this act, are bringing light to the world. Then we talk about community, right? Because community is important, especially in Indigenous cultures, because community is the way in which we hold ourselves accountable for remembering. That you can try to do something individually, which is a very Western way of looking at the world. But in Indigenous cultures, it's always been about community. Community is the reason that we're able to be accountable for what we say we're going to do. It's the reason why when you have a baby naming ceremony, you don't have the baby naming ceremony by yourself. You have to have the baby naming ceremony, even if it's not a big ceremony, with other people there, other people from the community, because those community members, they act as the memory. When they see that child growing up, they're the ones who are going to remind them, I was at your baby naming ceremony, and they said that you were going to do X. That is how community helps us to be accountable and to also recognize the gifts that come with us as we are coming into the world. And part of it is also when you think about the Bantu cosmology chart, right? That when we are coming into the world, we always say in many African cultures, it's the children and the elders that we pay most attention to, because the elders are getting ready to go on vacation and the children just got here from the spiritual world. So this act of remembering and being able to come with the messages are connected to our own life cycle and our own development. I'm going to take a breather here because I don't like being a talking head. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I'm very much enjoying what you are sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I will continue going and then we can have an open discussion a little later. So I want to ask us to do a quick assignment, right? So calling of names is very, very important. There's an African proverb that says, as long as you speak my name, I shall live forever. And this is important. For me, it's important because as you say, as you saw, as I introduced myself, where I call the names of my ancestors, my immediate ancestors, to the forefront of being present with me in the room. This is also true for us remembering and calling the names of those who are part of our communal ancestry that we want to bring into the room. It's one of the reasons why in a Khan culture, when they pour libation, and you first would start with your immediate ancestors, the ancestors of your lineage. And then after you do the ancestors of your lineage, you will do communal ancestors, those who are a part of your community that you want to recognize, whose energy has passed on, but whose physical energy has passed on, but their spiritual energy still helps to move the community forward, helps all of the teachings move them forward. When I teach and I work, I also make sure that I am calling the names of all of my teachers, right? So I've had the pleasure of working with Baba Fukiao and Catherine Dunham and Mama Fabian and Dr. Umalu and Baba Chuck Davis and Baba Shangi and Baba Montego Joe, and the list goes on and on and on. And so when I do my work in community, when I do my work in any presentation, I call their names, because so long as I call their names, they will live forever. They're living forever through me, through my work, through the work that I do. When I remember, it is always because I've either called them or they're asking me to do something. And because I've allowed myself to be open to that, I'm able to see the signs when they come. So for example, many times when Dr. Fukiao wants me to know something or I need to spend some more time on something, his book will open up to, one of his books will open up to the exact page of something that I've thought about or something that I need to research more on, or a memory that I had of working with him and the memory was connected to something in his text. And so I'm always clear when those things happen that that's what's supposed to be occurring at that moment. So I also encourage you to allow for yourself to be okay with those moments occurring. That's also ways in which we honor our ancestors, by being able to be open to those moments where they're trying to share messages with us by any means possible. And sometimes they share it with us in the way that we can understand. Again, sometimes it'll be a scent, sometimes it'll be a color, it'll be laughing, it'll be a song, it'll be all of these things. So I want us to take a couple of minutes, and I would like for us We have time. Good. I would like for us to introduce ourselves. And so we're going to introduce ourselves. You do not have to put your video on if you don't want to, but I do want to hear everyone's voice if you would indulge me. I am the daughter or son of, I'm the granddaughter or grandson of, and I'm the great-great-granddaughter or great-great-grandson of. When I used to teach rites of passage, this was the way in which we started working on family lineage with all of the young people. That them knowing their heritage and knowing where they came from and the history of those people who came before them was really going to be their anchor and their foundation for moving forward. So I'd love to give about 3 minutes if you have paper and pen, or if you know the names off the top of your head and can create it. I would love to see if we could introduce ourselves this way. Someone's ready to go?
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good afternoon.
I am Mukja Hassan, and I am the daughter of Gail Harris Means, Robert James Means. I am the granddaughter of Sarah Means, Theodore Means, Dustin Howard, and Margaret Webster. I am the great-granddaughter of James Stevenson, Helen Stevenson, Cora Merle, and I am that's as far as I can go.
Ashe, thank you for sharing, Mukja.
You're welcome.
Would someone else like to go?
Sure, I'll go. Hi, everyone. My name is Kendra Ross. I am the daughter of Faye, Martha Ross, and Kenneth Ross. I am the granddaughter of Hattie Bowler, Lehman Bowler, Kwesi Wilson, and Eugene Ross. And I am the great-great-granddaughter of Millie Bynum, Frank Bynum, Maynard Harris, and Albert Thornton.
Ashe. Thank you for sharing, Kendra.
Yes.
Is there anyone else who would like to go?
My name is Latifa Kituku. I am the daughter of Barbara Booker, the granddaughter of Clara Harrison, the great-granddaughter of Laura Palmore.
Sure. Thank you for sharing, Latifa.
That's it.
Thank you. Anyone like to go
You're
next?
welcome.
I can go. My name is Rakia Seaborn. I am the daughter of Sandra and Jean. I am the granddaughter of Catherine and Eugene, and Hattie, Louise, and Sam, and the great-granddaughter of Helen.
Sure. Thank you for sharing, Rakia. It's wonderful. Anyone else would like to share? Hi, Lindsay.
I am the daughter of Larry and Rosa and the granddaughter of Guadalupe, Agnes, and Richard. I don't know my other grandpa's names, so I can't mention him.
Okay.
And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So I want us to do a quick reflection on what it felt like to say the names, or what it felt like to hear other people say the names. And I can share my reflection afterwards, but for those of you who are listening and participating and shared your names, how did that feel? What did it feel like? Where did you feel it?
As I said the names of my ancestors, I felt it in my heart, and in my mind, I saw pictures of them, except my great grandmother, who I never got to meet.
Okay. Thank you. Lindsay, we're going to share something.
Yes, I wanted to say that I felt soothed when people were saying who they were, who their lineage was, and that everybody said it pretty musically. So it flowed really nicely.
Nice. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think I kind of felt like this interesting feeling of being like snapped back into the moment. Like it felt this like moment of like yeah, that's like a recentering moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Kendra.
So I've done some introductions like this before, and for me, it's always, and especially now, it's always a reminder for me that I'm never alone, and that I always have this tribe that's with me. And in this time where we are required to sometimes be alone in isolation in our homes, just remembering that I'm never really, really alone, and it's very comforting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Muja, did you want to say something?
Yeah, as Mukja.
Muja, say it again.
Mukja.
Mukja, got it.
Thank you. The person that said that they noticed that when we all spoke, it was very like rhythmic.
Mm-hmm.
I found that really interesting because it felt and it feels like a type of rhythm. And I think that just goes, I think how Latifa said, it's very deep within us. And so when you speak the names, I'm feeling them, whether I knew them or not. Yeah, so I just found it interesting that someone else could hear that outside of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very, very true. And that is the power of our words. That is the power of our tongue. That is the power of how we call energy to us, right? That in that moment, we were able to bring feelings of calm, bring feelings of not feeling alone, bringing community. Right now, my entire body is buzzing. That's how I know that we're in a virtual space, but we've just called a whole bunch of folks with us.
That's for sure.
Right? You know, when I do these and when I introduce myself like that in public gatherings, I always tell people, sometimes it's me speaking, sometimes it's not, just roll with it, right? Because I know that if I've opened the portal for them, they are always going to rock with us. But it's just the when we talk about paying homage, it's really as simple as just calling their name. Reminding these energies that we acknowledge who they are, that we know who that they are, that we are remembering who they are. and that the contributions that they've made, right? And contributions, you know, sometimes people believe that contributions have to be really big things. But to be quite honest with you, contributions can be, their existence allowed for us to exist. Whatever it is that we know, whatever we don't know, their existence has allowed for us to exist. And so that is the contribution, regardless of the story that exists, regardless of what may have happened during their time, that their existence is important to our existence. And so by us calling the name, and I want to also say, Lindsay, you shared, you know, I don't know his other name, but you've already acknowledged that energy by saying, I know that there's another grandfather, I don't know their name, but I pay homage to you also. By that recognition in and of itself allows for that energy to know that we're paying homage to. So there is an important piece in us calling the names of our ancestors and us figuring out ways in which this particular way of ritual is important in our lives. And it doesn't have to be, again, ritual does not have to be, you know, what the public tells us it has to be in terms of, you know, candles, and it could simply really be you standing, and whenever you're doing your meditation or your breathing, you take a moment and you call their names and you ask for their support. And so that's a really big part of this process of remembering, that it's an everyday practice, that is something that is meaningful for each of us, right? So it doesn't have meaning if, you know, I want to do Lindsay's practice, because Lindsay's practice may not be a part of my own lineage. I may not be able to do exactly what she does because those things that I need to remember may not connect. They may not have any meaning for me. So we have to be okay with creating those rituals and that opportunity for ourselves. And one of the simplest way that we can do it is through the calling of names. And anytime you want to really like feel, and I think as Kendra said, feel like you're not alone, go ahead and say who you're the daughter and granddaughter of. Trust me, you will not feel alone ever. And so I'm always thankful that I was able to learn that from my elders, and that I was able to use it as part of the ways of empowering young people to know how they can show up in the world. So yes, the calling of names is very, very, very important. The next thing I want to talk to a little bit about is this idea of blood memory. So when we talked about this idea of ancestor, we talked about this last part that they say, which is in the law, it's person from whom an estate has been inherited, right? And I always like to think about and talk about, well, what has been inherited, right? What have we inherited? We've inherited our beautiful faces, our features. We've inherited the memory, thousands and thousands of years of understanding that exists within our blood. We've inherited our ability to do crafts with our hands, our ability to move and dance, our ability to sing, our ability to cook well, our ability to bead, our ability to be healers, our ability to astral project. All of those things is the estate that we're inheriting. It may not always be brick and mortar, right? But it is the estate that we're inheriting. Mama Catherine Dunham used to talk about when we were studying just the technique and how the Dunham technique had taken some time in the later part of her years when we were studying with her, that she was not so much concerned about us doing the technique across the floor. She wanted us to learn how to sit still. And it was the hardest thing for us because all of us wanted to go across the floor. That's what we came for. But she had gotten into a place in her life where what she was hearing and being able to tap into was ancestral messages that was coming from this place of us being still, a place of us connecting with our chakras that allowed for certain types of movement. And so it's that we inherit. We inherit this memory. We inherit, you know, the memory of doing parts of Yan Balu and moving our hand and our movement in this way is a part of our inheritance, right? Not just that we've learned it, but that by doing it, our whole body starts to remember something, right? That kinesthetic memory exists within each of us. This idea of what we do with our hands, right? That some of us are woodworkers, that some of us are beaters, that some of us are great chefs, that those things that we inherit with our hands are very, very important, because that is a part of our inheritance, right? Those of us who talk about, and I talk about it sometimes when I'm working on panels around Black maternal health and birth, right? And the maternal crisis, that, you know, we have heritage in birth, being birth workers and being midwives, that it was not about us getting a certificate for it, but it was our ancestral work, that generations and generations of our lineage did that work. And so that understanding was passed on in our blood. And so when we remember, that's how we end up coming to this work, with an understanding and a purpose and feeling fulfilled because we're doing it. It is the same way in which me coming to, like I said, working with plant medicine, that I had forgotten years ago. I had a reading done, and they reminded me that in my lineage, in my maternal lineage, there was a great herbalist. They said, you're going to be the one who's going to bring this back in your lineage. If you had reminded me this 3 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, sure. It's not what I had planned to do, but something ticked and I started to remember, and it started going, and now we're on the train. Like, this is what we're going to be doing. And so I'm clear that I'm in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing because of the way in which things occur for me, right? They're not occurring because I'm always putting myself out there first. They're occurring because they're part of what I'm supposed to be doing, how I'm supposed to be learning, the way I'm supposed to be learning. So we inherit a lot more than just brick and mortar from our ancestors. We inherit all of this, our song, our voice, our understanding, the reason why we do what we do. As we said, ritual, community, and healing, all of those things are part of us paying homage. And when we are doing the work that we are, what people like to say, the ancestral work, there's a sense of fulfillment, there's a sense of connection, there's a sense of a part of the whole that we may have been looking for, that all of a sudden feels like it's being fulfilled. I also put this wonderful picture of a stilt walker. I think this is Baba Shaka, but also knowing from New Orleans, who is one of our Babas, but also knowing Baba Lucashe Wiles and having to bring him into the conversation, because Baba Lucashe was one of the first Chakabas that existed here in New York. And some of the work that he does, Chakaba as a society is secret. However, the work that they do is not just about the stilt walking. It's about their energy and being able to use the philosophy around stilt walking to help to cleanse neighborhoods, to cleanse the village, to move negative spirits away, and to bring positive energy in. And so when I speak about Baba Lucashe Wiles and being able to study with him and to know and be good friendships with all his daughters and his children, we used to always talk about the fact that when they first moved into East New York, Baba Lucashe would get on his stilts and literally walk through East New York, performing the rituals that many people may not have understood. They may have just seen him as somebody on his stilts and was like, oh, that's great. But he understood that once he was doing that work, that he was able to connect with the ancestors and ensure this, not just the safety of the community, but also that they were bringing in positive energy and that their ancestors were walking with them. So this work is not just this idea of we're just doing it just to do it, that our ancestors work with us in all that we do. And so I implore you, when you think about paying homage, when you think about this idea and this verb around calling them into spaces, that we also take a moment to be silent and to remember. That sometimes it's not about the act of doing, it's really about this place that allows us to remember. And by us remembering, just the act of remembering, we are paying homage to them. the act of calling their names, the act of doing the work that exists within our bloodline, that is all a part of paying homage and remembering. That it is not something that exists behind a cloak, but it is an energy that each of us, and a power, really, and a superpower that each of us has in order to really be in alignment with what we said we were going to do, right? This idea that ritual brings us back to remembering what we said in the ancestral world we would come to do, and that because of whatever goes on in the world, we sometimes forget. And when we're off alignment, sometimes things don't work so well for us. So I'm going to stop here. We are now at 4:52. I have one other activity I want us to do before we close out, but I wanted to give us a moment to, excuse me, if we wanted to share any thoughts or that have come up for us during this conversation, we can do it here, and we'll do that before we close out. Again, thank you all for spending this time. It's really been amazing, and I'm really thankful always. Okay, no one wants to share. We can continue to closing out if you would like. Rakia, is that okay?
That's fine.
Cool. So I have to share my screen again. Okay, so we are going to do a short meditation in a second, but I wanted to read this tribute by my dear sister, now sister, mother, friend, ancestor, Fabian Miranda. Our endeavors are without merit, without depth, if we do not acknowledge our ancestors, to whom we pledge our allegiance, in whom our faith is built, and from whom our vision springs. Ashe. That was Fabian Miranda. She, a poet, amazing angel warrior that worked on behalf of her community for a very long time. And her words continue as we continue to not just lift her up, but lift up her words that she shared with us and her music that she shared with us. We're able to acknowledge her existence here on earth as well. So I'm going to ask Rakia, if you would start our music. I'm going to ask everyone to get comfortable in their chairs. I'm going to ask you to, you can close your eyes if you'd like. If you can put your feet, depending on how you're sitting, feet firmly planted. I want you to take your, if you're sitting straight up, to take your body slightly forward. That helps with being able to ensure that breath is coming into your body. And we're going to start with a couple of deep breaths, and then we are going to do a little gratitude thinking.
Listen more often to things than to things. Listen more often to things than to things. 'Tis the
So we're going to start with just breathing, taking a deep breath in and breathing out. Again, deep breath in.
To have died, have never, never left.
And
But
breathe
they
out.
are not under the earth. They are in
In
the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They
and
are in the
out.
crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. But they
In
are not under the earth. So listen
and out.
more often to things than to these.
And as you take your breath,
More often
I ask you to remember the names that you called.
the ancestors,
Envision them in your mind.
the fires
And I
burn.
want you to, in
Tis
your
the
own way, it may be
ancestors
movement, it may be a word, it may be
in
a
the
poem,
voice of
but
the
this is our
Lord.
moment to share gratitude and to be thankful. So you
Those
start
who
with,
have died
I am the
have
daughter of, and
but
whoever you
dead
named,
have
we're going to say thank you to your parents.
They are in the woman's breast. They are in the waiting child. They are with us in the home. They are with us in the crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more
And now we'll take another deep breath in and breathe out.
more often to things and to these. 'Tis the
In
ancestors when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis
and
the
breathe out.
ancestors in the voice of the waters.
And now we will thank our grandparents. So all that you named, see them in your mind's eye. Say thank you. Taking a deep breath in and breathe out. And we want to thank our great grandparents. Their applause was on point. And taking a final deep breath in and breathing out. And thank yourself for having a moment here in the present to recognize your past and to acknowledge your future. Thank you all so much for joining us. That is all that I have for today.
Thank you, Renee. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not saying that's all you have for today. You have tremendous, enormous amounts. Thank you for sharing all of what you did. It was really, really, really very good.
Thank
I thank you so much, and I would love for Cumbe to bring you back again.
Yes.
We need this. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes. Agree, 1000%. So, Rakia, you're recording all this. We want to hear from Renee again.
I recorded this. I'm taking in and feeling all of those people that are walking with me and dancing with me right now. And yeah, I understand. This was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Thank you so much to Renee. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by and participating and just being with us in this moment. Yeah, let's figure out how to do it again.
Oh, wow. You know, and I have to just I just want to say thank you, Cumbe, also, because of all the classes that you have. Me and my sister from different mothers, Latifa, we've had the opportunity to probably see each other more than we have in the last, what, how many years, Latifa? I don't know. She lives in Ohio, I live in Georgia.
We've known each other for probably 50
I
years,
guess,
maybe.
yeah, but we've been separate and we've seen each other more since what, April? By being on Cumbe.
Yeah.
So thank you, Cumbe, for that. You've allowed us to come together. But Renee,
Thank you.
very good. Renee, very, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hope to see you again soon.
Take care, Latifa.
Bye.
All right. You take care.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.